Stuart Gordon was an American film director and screenwriter born in 1947, famous for his horror and science fiction movies. But he also made in 1988 Kid Save the Video for a coupon giveaway by a pharma company. He co-wrote the script for the 1993 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Also the script for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in 1989. Was one of the producers of the 1992 sequel and directed Honey, Let's Trick or Treat, the only Halloween episode for the same name TV series from 1997, with 66 episodes in 3 seasons. In 2005-2007, he shot the very entertaining episodes for the Mick Garris TV series Masters of Horror and the sequel Fear Itself. Dreams in a Witch House, based on H.P. Lovecraft's same-name story from 1933, is about a student who falls under the spell of a witch. In The Black Cat, based on Edgar Allan Poe's same-named story from 1833, the author himself fights against a writer's block. Eater from 2008, for the sequel TV series Fear Itself, is about a rookie police officer who has to deal during a night shift with a supernatural cannibal serial killer. Gordon's directorial debut, Re-Animator, from 1985, is based on H.P. Lovecraft's very interesting 1922 short story Herbert West, Re-Animator, which appeared back then in 6 parts, as here in Weird Tales. The story, which takes place at the beginning of the 20th century, is told by a college friend and helper of Herbert West, after he disappeared. The movie has a completely different plot and contains only elements of the original story, which itself seems like a parody of Mary Shelley's classic novel Frankenstein, which appeared a century earlier. Medical student Herbert West has created a serum that can bring dead issue back to life. When he tests it on dead people, one leads to the other, resulting in a bunch of bloodthirsty zombies. The extremely gory R-rated horror satire made in the US more than 2 times its $900,000 budget back, and was a worldwide success with audiences and critics, but understandably not so much with real Lovecraft fans. The actual lead is not West but the colleague, who helps him all the time for reasons. The story also doesn't really make sense either, as West basically only creates bloodthirsty zombies, and the music is so shamelessly stolen from Psycho. No idea how so-called composer Richard Band, brother of the so-called director-producer Charles Band, got away with it. But more Band rant later. Nevertheless, I think Re-Animator is very good, thanks to the excellent cast and unique crazy story, fantastic practical effects and the fast-paced, staged entertaining like hell. There were sequels under different direction, but more about that in the Brian Usner rant. Special. In 1986, Strange Creatures Came From Beyond to the Screens, based on H.P. Lovecraft's very interesting same-named short story, first published in June 1934 by The Fantasy Fan. A team of scientists is working on a so-called resonator, opening another dimension with monsters, which kill one of them. To prove his innocence, the survivor repeats the experiment under supervision of a policeman and an attractive female doctor. However, this has fatal side effects such as increased pleasure, physical deformities, and the return of the dead colleague as a dangerous monster that wants to conquer our dimension. The original Lovecraft story is set in 1920, has just 7 pages, deals only with one scientist and the narrator, and there is also no desire increasing side effects of the resonator. In 2021, Full Moon released the Resonator Miskatonic U as a kind of sequel/remake whatsoever. The ultra cheap looking TV series is set in the present, where you can watch some students and their amateur play. From my point of view, a total waste of time. The once again very gory R-rated horror movie made in the US only a quarter of its $4.5 million budget back and was a flop, but received mixed to positive reviews. For me, it is, like Re-Animator, very entertaining for the same reasons, but this time with a scary, serious tone.
So I'll make myself believe it. This night will never go.
1987, Dolls is about 6 people which arrive during a storm in a mansion. They discover 2 magical toy maker and their cursed doll collection. The horror movie almost doubled its $2 million budget, appeared directly on video and received mixed to positive reviews. For me, he comes off most of the time pretty cheap, and despite some nice effects, boring as hell. A typical Charles crap from the assembly line band production. 1990, nobody cared for the TV snorefest Daughter of Darkness. A woman tries to find out her father's identity and is drawn into a vampire underworld. Because what a twist, he's a vampire. And what a double twist, I don't care. 1989, robot jocks sneaked in many countries like here in Germany directly unnoticed on video. 50 years after World War III, there are only 2 nations left, America and Russia. Instead of continuing war, giant robots, steered by robot jockeys, battle for chosen territories. Here in the movie it's about Alaska. Actually, shooting was already finished in 87, but band's production company Empire went bankrupt, prevented the release for 2 years. It made just $1 million of the $10 million budget back and was a flop. Robot jocks is a kind of disaster. And apart from the main actor and his Russian opponent, it's completely miscast, with total failures like the main female character and the fat cowboy fuck. He comes off like a children's movie in which adult stuff is happening. Nevertheless, or maybe just because, I think it's very entertaining. Especially the good action and the well done effects are really worth seeing. From my point of view, it's the only movie that can at least come up with some interesting robot fights, beating any Transformer or Pacific Rim crap anytime. This doesn't apply to Charles Band's fake sequel in 1990, Crash and Burn, which was also shamelessly published as Robot Jocks 2, although it has nothing to do with Robot Jocks. Only one lousy giant robot appears for 2 minutes shortly before the end credits. The super cheap, unbelievably boring dystopia is just a poor Terminator rip-off wannabe. Charles Band founded, among others, the cheap crap company Empire and the super cheap crap company Full Moon follow-up. He has already produced about 300 so-called movies, over 60 directed by himself, with very few exceptions, most of the time cheap-looking, unimaginative garbage with shamelessly stolen ideas and misleading film titles similar to clickbait. This is also true for the second fake sequel, Robot Wars from '93, which was also shamelessly published as Robot Jocks 2, although it also has nothing to do with Robot Jocks whatsoever. The boring as fuck crap is about a mech pilot in a post-apocalyptic future who has to stop mech kidnappers from provoking a global war, this time directed by Albert Band, the father of Charles Band, also producer and filmmaker, and apparently also in the cinematic garbage on an assembly line business. Producing trash seems to be running in the family. In 1991, The Pit and the Pendulum appears after the excellent same-named Edgar Allan Poe short story from 1842, which deals with the torment of a prisoner during the Spanish Inquisition. Already entertainingly adapted with Vincent Price in 1961 by Roger Corman, but also completely fucked up in 2009 by the incompetent filmmaker wannabe David de Coteau. A Grand Inquisitor in Spain from 1492 arrests and interrogates a woman he wants to bang because of her allegedly practiced witchcraft. He also wants to try his latest torture instrument, Pit and Pendulum, on her husband. The movie adds completely the main plot with the woman and is most of the time about her and other prisoners' tortures. He also uses wildly things from Poe's story The Cask of Amontillado, or hangs for reasons the sword of Damocles under a roof. The Pendulum story swings in for 5 minutes just at the end. I felt most of the time bored out of my mind. But it got annoying when a real witch reveals herself, hunting down the villain, which leads to a kind of nonsensical happy end whatsoever. 1993, Fortress is an US-Australian science fiction action film. The movie takes place in the distant future of 2017. A married couple is expecting their second child. The first one died after birth. This is for reasons a violation of the one-child politics, which has obviously not been understood by some simple-minded wannabe script writers. So both end up in the underground high-tech prison Fortress, which is completely disproportionate by any stretch to the crime, and again makes no sense whatsoever. Of course, no one has ever escaped the Fortress, and also of course they escape at the end. The $12 million movie made 4 times its budget back and was a worldwide success. Reviews were mixed to positive. Fortress is very entertaining and looks much better than many other future prison escape flicks. The stupid plot gets saved by the good cast, the interesting look and the fast paced. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to the 2000 sequel Fortress 2 Re-Entry. In this direct-to-video to garbage can, our hero has to break out of a prison in space, which he of course manages to do thanks to his super-duper abilities, like floating around through space without a spacesuit, by just holding his breath, of course. From my point of view, a clear case of not enough oxygen in the writer's room, resulting in their brains also floating in space. The New Zealand director Geoff Murphy made in 1985 the very interesting end-time movie The Quiet Earth, or The Passable Young Guns 2. But after that, more and more crap like Free Jack, Under Siege 2 and this boring flick here. 1995, Castle Freak showed its ugly face. Supposedly based on the very interesting 1921 H.P. Lovecraft short story The Outsider, first published in the 1926 April issue of Weird Tales. The original, probably my favorite Lovecraft story, is basically about only one man, imprisoned in a castle. After his escape, he discovers that he looks like a monster and decides from then on to stay away from other people. In the movie, a man moves with his wife and blind daughter into an inherited castle, where his monster-like half-brother is unnoticed chained in the basement. He frees himself and attacks people, but especially women. The $500,000 direct-to-video flick received mostly, for me, incomprehensible positive reviews. Back then, Gordon saw a Castle Freak concept poster hanging on the wall in the office of producer buddy Charles Bent. Since there was no story for it yet, he decided to make something up. And that's exactly how this crap comes off. This completely illogical, uninteresting, only show effect-oriented piece of shit has absolutely nothing to do with the ingenious Lovecraft short story. It doesn't make for a second sense and is just an excuse for some disgusting scenes with some decent effects. And for sure a much too good, completely wasted cast. And still seems like high art compared to the same named 2020 direct-to-video to trash can remake. In the horrible cheap crap, an American young blind woman inherits an Albanian castle, into which she moves with her boyfriend, and discovers that a bloodthirsty, this time female, horny creature lives there. Despite various references to other Stuart Gordon classics, From Beyond, Re-Animator, the Necronomicon lies in the castle walls, Tate Steinsieg's unimaginative sterile bore that looks like a home video can't convince at any second. In 1996, space truckers floated unnoticed over screens. It's about one of the last independent space truckers, whose cargo turns out to be almost unstoppable killer robots that eliminate anyone who gets in their way. The $25 million science fiction comedy drove just over $1 million back home and was a financial disaster. That was also ignored and shot on the moon by critics. Although quite tame by Gordon standards, it has for me a high trash entertainment value. The 1998 fantasy comedy The Wonderful Ice Cream Suit is based on the wonderful same-named story by Ray Bradbury, the author of Fahrenheit 451, who also wrote the screenplay. First published in 1958 in the Saturday Evening Post as The Magical White Suit. In this faithful, excellent cast adaptation, 5 in the original 6 poor men take a risk and, each with their last $20, buy together a white suit, taking turns wearing it. It seems that the suit gives its owner self-confidence and makes his wishes come true. Therefore, they guard it like a treasure, what leads in the course of the story to sometimes absurdly funny situations. The 2001 Spanish horror movie Dagoon is based on H.P. Lovecraft's 1936 novel The Shadow over Innsmouth. The film title is from the same-named short story from 1919. In the book, the narrator discovers, rather by chance, a hidden city with a kind of fish creatures, developed after a pact with the god Dagoon from the Cthulhu myth. After his escape, he realizes that he himself is a descendant from these creatures and slowly transforms into one. So he decides to return with a relative who has a similar destiny to live there forever. The movie plays nowadays, leaves out the relative who had to be freed in the book from a mental asylum and adds the girlfriend and the befriended couple with whom he takes a sailing trip at the Spanish coast. Despite some logical flaws and a stupid ending, Dagoon is excellently cast, elaborately staged and entertaining like hell. One of the very best Lovecraft adaptations. The Asylum King of Ants from 2003 was based on the same-named 1992 Charlie Higgins novel. The movie is about a struggling young man trying to make ends meet by painting houses, who kills someone for a criminal building contractor and then gets tortured as he tries to collect his promised reward. He can escape and takes bloody revenge. The cheap direct-to-video production is very well cast and got for me some not understandable positive reviews. King of Ants is boring shit and I have no clue what he's up to, because there is not even one even slightly sympathetic character with which the audience can connect. They are all stupid, boring fucks I don't give a fuck about. 2005, the thriller drama Edmond showed up. After a fortune teller has laid the cards for him, a man leaves his wife, throws himself apparently for the first time into the nightlife, loses his money to pimps and tricksters and gets a knife, which ends up with a murder and his imprisonment. The much too talkative movie, after a play from 1982, really looks like it's a leftover from the 70s. The plot is completely constructed, the main character is unsympathetic and the pseudo-intellectuality is almost unbearable. But much worse are some critics that hallucinated into this completely uninteresting bore some kind of depth. 2007, Stuck appears after a true story. A young nurse accidentally runs over a homeless person and simply drives home, although he is still stuck in a windshield and also is still alive. The excellently cast, extremely entertaining movie is a dark satire similar to Fargo. The real incident happened back in 2001. In contrast to the movie, the victim died to his injuries after 1 or 2 days suffering, and the woman got at first away, but finally caught after months.
The street light in the night. There's a bad dog out that'll give you a fright. 1, 2, 3, 4. The night is the time